Hi, I'm Chantal Markham, and I'm here with Dr. Jonathan Roberti, and I want to ask you a few questions.
All right. Well, what kinds of things would you like to know?
How long have you been in the healthcare profession?
I have been in the healthcare profession going on 15 years, and left the traditional healthcare system that most people will experience over the course of their life about 4 years ago because of my frustration with healthcare and how that landscape had changed. And I knew that there was a better way to go about achieving these health goals with people in the United States. I mean, business as usual, this sort of mentality that, sixth graders that are 250 pounds and on 4 or 5 medications is the new normal wasn't acceptable to me. And I said to myself, look, if I can't change that system, I'm going to create my own system that empowers people to really take hold of health and move from a sort of a position of being surviving to thriving. And there's a big difference in how that feels.
Great. Well, over the last 15 years, what would you say the biggest challenge is for people seeking healthcare here in America?
Where to begin? I mean, the amount of challenges that we are facing now as a country, as a society, across genders, across cultures, across ethnicities, is that we don't have availability to health care that empowers us. What has been taken out of the equation is the human element. And when we can engage and connect with someone on a personal level, where you really are, when I meet with someone, for example, for the first time, I don't really want to hear a lot of what their past has been and this, the struggles that they've been in, because it gets into that thinking model where it's not going to support their growth. So I want to know about what are they aspiring to do in the future. Where do they want to go? What do they want to achieve? What is their passion? What is their why? And it sets up the ability for me to then look at what their strengths and weaknesses are, as a way of then developing a self-care model that is sustainable for them.
Where do you see healthcare going in the near future?
I see it going back to the people. We have been stripped of a lot of our ability to be able to have ownership over our health. And people are really wanting to be armed with knowledge, skills, and abilities to have a toolbox, an array of things that they can tackle any obstacle, any challenge in their daily life and move from that position of surviving to thriving. And that's where I really see healthcare moving in the future.
Great. You recently gave a talk at a local event that had raving reviews. Let's take a look at that clip.
Where you're at, I wanted to share a little bit about my personal and professional journey with my own health. And it's been quite a journey at that. And I am a true believer in that. In order for people to get better, to get well, to create their own health, it's important for us to share that knowledge with other people. So, first of all, a round of applause for the turnout tonight, right? I mean, and another round of applause for the food. The food was really, really, really good. Really good. So I'm glad everybody brought some cards too. If there's a favorite dish that you tasted once, maybe twice or 3 times in my case, there was a couple things I tried several times. Take a picture of that index card. That way you have that new culinary creation that you tasted here tonight that you can then share with your family at home that wasn't here. And and Troy and I were talking before this that what a great gift this is for myself to be able to share my own health journey and transformation. For those of you that don't know me, I've spent, this is now going on my 15th year in healthcare. And I did my residency at the University of Florida at Shands Teaching Hospital in clinical and health psychology, and worked there in the hospital, 60-hour work weeks, eating vending machine lunches, seeing the worst of the worst as far as folks that are there for solid organ transplants, ICD emplacements, folks that are there for bariatric surgery, diabetes, all the major itises, all the chronic diseases that are plaguing us. How many of you know someone right now that has a chronic disease that they're struggling with right now? Raise your hands. So, look to your left, look to your right. We know that many of the things that we put into our mouth, what I started seeing as I was, working these long work weeks, is that certain things started to hang together, right? The symptoms that I started seeing in folks started to hang together. People were getting sicker and sicker, and what I noticed is that it was directly proportional to the quality of the food that they were putting into their bodies. How many of you have ever been in the hospital before? First of all, raise your hand. How many of you love that food that's in the hospital, or you were visiting someone at the hospital and you went down to the cafeteria, and of course you've got your standard American diet food, high in carbohydrates, rich in fats, and demineralized, denatured, and completely lifeless. Yet we expect people to get better, right? We expect as health professionals the food that we're giving them to be part of that blueprint for health. And yet we feed them this crap. And we see that trend continue as we look at the kids. How many of you have kids? Raise a hand. Nieces, nephews, keep those hands up. All of us know someone that has had challenges as a child with their health. I mean, when I talk to my colleagues and they say to me, Jonathan, this is the new normal, that 10, 11, and 12-year-olds have soft signs of cardiovascular disease, or on 4 medications, or 6th graders that are 250 pounds. That's not normal. That is certainly not normal, and we know this to be true because the diseases I saw even 10 years ago aren't the same animal as they are now. The allergies. How many of you know someone that has allergies and they didn't have them maybe 5 or 6, 7 years ago? Raise your hands. How many of you know someone that has neurodegenerative diseases, or autism, or an autism spectrum disorder, or has digestive problems? Keep those hands up. Leaky gut syndrome, diverticulitis, ulcerative colitis, all the itises, right? These are all pro-inflammatory diseases. So we once again come back to that the food, the quality of that food that we put into our body is directly proportional to the quality of our health. A very wise guy said, the majority of people are treating their bodies like an amusement park when we should be treating them like a temple. And that's really essential as far as the conversation has changed, guys. We're all here tonight because we have felt that conversation, right? We've been asked by someone to come and lock arms and say, look, those foods that you love, and I will say from personal experience, I'm Italian, and I love, red meat. I love meatballs. I love manicotti. How many of you are Italian? I mean, I could go on with the laundry list of foods that are all good. I mean, in my family, when we would say whole food, we thought that meant the whole freaking pizza. So it was a complete shift for me personally to start looking at that quality of the food that I was putting into my body, but also knowing that my dad died at the age of 46 of a heart attack. Had a clean bill of health. I was 9 years old. Eye-opener. My brother died 2 years ago, went into a diabetic coma, never came out of it. Totally preventable. Light bulb went off in my head. What it said to me is that my DNA is not my destiny. That ultimately, I can change the course of my health by just adhering to a handful of changes. Just a handful of things can drastically change the optics. It'll move the gauges in the right direction. Whether you're someone that's going down the trail of being a vegan, I know a lot of the folks here tonight in attendance are vegans or just starting down that path to healthy living. And it sometimes can be very daunting, especially that first step off, right? A lot of times we want to take the stairs into the pool, but we end up taking the ladder. So what I have found with my own personal experience is that making simple changes over the course of time has led to more habit strength. I noticed that the first month I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to start drinking more water. I'm going to drink half my body weight in water. That's my first month commitment. So I start my morning, every morning, warm lemon water. Why? Because most of our digestive, or most of our, dump of toxins occurs during the night. We want to flush the body. We want to get it nice and alkalized. We want to get that crap out. Because when we get the crap out, we're able to digest those nutrients. So, crap is a technical term, right? But we've got to get this stuff out. I mean, the average male, did you know, carries around 7 to 11 pounds of undigested fecal waste in their intestines? That's not normal. The permeability, the lining of the intestines every 7 minutes goes back and forth like a wave going in and out at the beach. So we know that the majority of our health problems are directly associated with the food that we put into our body. And for me, it was a big thing to say that first month, I'm going to drink half my body weight in water. Then the next month I said, you know what? I'm going to give up dairy. And that one took 2 months. I'm not going to lie to you. It took me 2 months to give up the dairy because cheese, sour cream, all of these things that we find in our foods or putting on top of our foods took 2 months for me to get rid of it. Next month after that, I said, you know what? I know the negative health consequences of eating animal proteins. It's not even debatable anymore. I'm going to cut those out. And that's where the rubber started hitting the road for me. I started noticing changes in my body. So to back up a little bit, 9 years ago I was involved in a car accident that left me hit at 60 miles an hour, T-bone, 7 herniated discs in my back, and a drunk driver that didn't know that she had hit someone. And it left me in a situation where I was relying on sick care to be able to solve my challenges, the barriers that were keeping me from doing the things that I love, which was helping people. And what was their answers? They wanted to cut me open. They wanted to do, major surgeries. They wanted to fill me full of anti-inflammatories, narcotics, all these great things that are part of the, industrialized healthcare system that we have. And it wasn't sustainable. I said, no way, I'm spending more time in other doctors' offices than I am my own. This isn't normal. So I started scratching my head and said, you know what? In order for things to get better, I've got to get better. In order for things to be better, I've got to be better. And that meant taking these simple things, going back to basics, with the water, with cutting out the dairy, with cutting out the animal proteins, with eating a predominantly plant-based diet that I found extremely hard to source, find, or was completely outside of my pay bracket. I mean, how many of you go to Whole Food on a weekly basis? Raise your hands, or Earth Origins, or really try to focus on organic. I know for myself, in this journey, we start scratching our head and going, okay, financially, how much are we spending when we started to turn the corner? How much are we spending, not just monthly, but yearly on fresh veg? And now, most of you, with the Thanksgiving coming up, you're going to be looking for those little packets of herbs, right, that are $6 for the little packet that's hanging there that go bad within 24 hours.
Hi, everyone. My name's Jeff, and I started to listen to what Jonathan was talking about as far as taking control, taking self-responsibility for your health. So in May, I decided to step up and raise my standards. I had put on an excess 50, 60 pounds of weight over the last 10, 12 years. So I started eating off the towers, doing the Juice Plus Complete Shakes, the supplements, and it's been amazing. May, June, July, August, I took almost 50 pounds by following this, so thank you. And thank you, Jonathan, for this. So it's amazing, it really is. And it's been a lifestyle change, it's been behavioral modification. it's something that's not only attainable but sustainable. I feel like I can continue on. It's not just like for the season, like, okay, you did it in the summer and then you yo-yo and you go right back to where you were. So it's been really life-altering, and to be able to show up now as an example, not a warning, and to walk the talk and to live the mission is really something special. So thank you, Jonathan, and thank you guys for being here. So thank you.
I was just reading, just started a book, and it's about the evolution of medicine. And the statistics were staggering when I read them, and these are recent. Most of the folks, general practitioners, 60% of them plan on leaving the healthcare field in the next 2 years. 60% of them in the next 2 years. 80% of them, when polled, when asked whether they regretted going into the health or medical field, said they wish that they hadn't went into it. 80% of them. That's kind of frightening. And these are good-hearted people, but they're going into a system that doesn't support them in their ability to be able to change health in a way that's sustainable. You know, when you've got the average 50-year-old U.S. citizen being on 4 pharmaceutical medications, we don't put people on medications for a day or a week or a month anymore. It's a lifetime. And then most of those medications, if you really take a deeper dive, let's take Vioxx, for example. Very commonly prescribed medication. How many of you have heard of it? Killed over 60,000 people, I think, was the final tally at the end of the day. And then the FDA recalled it. The Fraud and Death Administration recalled Vioxx, and then they off-label used it for childhood onset, osteoarthritis. And killed another 10,000 people. So when you start following the money, you start looking at, who has the most to gains. It really becomes a profits over people mentality, and that's taken a lot of the fire out of people that are in the medical community. People like myself that got so frustrated that left it and said, you know what, prevention's the answer. I know that if I teach someone that if they consume 11 to 13 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, that it's going to move the health needle, and they're going to get off the majority of these medications, which, by the way, 90% of them have been synthesized in a lab from a plant. Let's start with aspirin back in the, 20s or 30s, when Bayer thought, well, this is a great idea. We can take willow bark, white willow bark, as the alternative to that. Every medication almost has been derived from a plant or an ethnobotanical, so it's a profits over people mentality. They don't spend $1 million a day in DC lobbying to keep these medications online so they can put them down your throat for no reason. Because there's no money in sick people, or there's no money in healthy people or dead people. They want to keep you with one foot in the grave and the other hand waving for help. And for me, I didn't want to stay part of that doom and gloom. And I know you guys don't either, because you wouldn't be here if you didn't see the value in what these kinds of things of creating that tribe, and that it's really powerful stuff. So hopefully it answered your question in a long way. These plants right here, so let me start from the outside of it, what we've got here. 28 plants growing vertically in a 2.5 foot print. 2.5 feet across, less than 6 feet tall, you're growing 28 plants.
PVC?
No, it's food grade plastic, and it's double UV line. So this is food grade plastic, so it won't leach into the food. There's no BPA in it. They did this right. You can set this out in the Florida sun for 30 years and it's not going to affect
You
that.
buy this as a system?
Yes.
What is their website, or where do we get
Share
it?
that with you.
Okay, great.
What are they growing in? There's not dirt, right?
Yeah, so here's the deal, guys. You've got a 20-gallon reservoir down here. A small aquarium pump. A small aquarium pump pushes that water all the way to the top. The timer kicks it on and off every 15 minutes. And these plants right here, guys, are about 7 days. They're about 7 days old. So
what are those?
these all start with a seed, guys. This is red Russian kale. So 7 days old from seed to this. Once they break through the rock wool, and rock wool is a volcanic mineral. It's totally pH neutral. It's not harmful. They put it into a cube-like form. We start our seeds. We start the seeds in it. Yeah, you know, you get a sheet of them, 100 of them for $12, which is enough to do a lot of tower gardens. And we start them. You put them in here, and then after about 3 weeks, you end up with something like that.
God, really?
After about 4 weeks, you end up with that kind of nice dinosaur kale. How many of you like arugula?
Oh, I love her.
Nobody likes the arugula, huh? Okay. I heard you. I heard it loud and clear. Loud and clear. Okay. So think about the last time you had arugula.
Today.
Think about that last time you had arugula, and think about what it tasted like. Now, most of the arugula, right? You know, is then.
It's like peppery.
You know, well, it's peppery, but you really can't. You really can't taste it. So try this, guys. I mean, just take a piece off and pass it around. Try this arugula. If this doesn't
Oh my God.
make you reconsider arugula,
It's delicious.
I can see why that had raving reviews. Thank you, Dr. Roberti. That was very enlightening.
It's my pleasure. I mean, you know, it's a real gift. It's a real honor for me to really give people, you know, the tools to be able to live a happy, healthy life. I mean, at the end of the day, when you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So when you're able to spread this message and give people, you know, that ability, that's a true gift for me. It's a blessing to be able to share that with people and pass that forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your wisdom and your knowledge. It'll really make a difference.
Thank you.